Hello and welcome. My name's Bastick and I'm presenting on creating an interactive dynamic chart. But before I start, I just want to say welcome to Excel Virtually Global. Sorry I'm not presenting this live, but I'm afraid I'm a little bit tied up elsewhere. But this is a great event and I hope you're finding really useful stuff out there on Excel tips and tricks, financial modeling, Power BI, Power Pivot, Power Query, Copilot, Lambda, dynamic arrays, and even agent mode that's just come out perhaps. But I'm going to go right back to basics for my session. So I head up some product. I've been an MVP for 15 years or so now, and I'm also very pleased to admit that I've been given the Lifetime Achievement Award for financial modeling. But all that aside, I'm going to do something quite simple because we did with this Excel Virtually Global event want to make sure that people could actually relate to these topics, whether they were really complex or pretty simple. And I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that you might not have seen before about how to create an interactive dynamic chart. Now, this is not death by PowerPoint. I've only got 3 slides and 2 of them at the end. So let's dive straight into Excel. So that you can play along from home, I'm going to start from scratch, not have any data, not have anything but a blank Excel workbook. So if you can't have access to an Excel workbook, well, you're stuffed really. So I've got a blank Excel workbook I've opened up. This is the beta version of Excel, but I'm going to make sure everything I do here is something that can be done pretty much in any version. So no dynamic arrays, no clever stuff. We're just going to go back to basics and show you some cool stuff, tips and tricks you can do to create an interactive dynamic chart. And I'm going to rename this particular tab rather than sheet 1. I'm going to call it images. And you can right click and you go to rename, but I'm just going to just double click on here and call it images this way. And then in this cell here, I'm going to go down and create an actual image in here. Now, you can put pictures in and do all sorts of things. This is the one bit actually where not all versions of Excel will support this. So this bit you might need to get a little bit clever with camera tools and things like that. And if you're thinking, what the heck's a camera tool? The camera tool is something you can put on your quick access toolbar here. It's there. You can try and find it somewhere on the ribbon. But what you can do, if you can't find it anywhere else, you can either go File, Options, and go from there into the quick access toolbar. This brings this up here. Or you can just right click on any of the icons on your quick access toolbar. Now yours might be above. Instead, I put mine below. And you can just move that by right clicking on it. You can see you can just move it one place or another. But I'm going to go in here and say, right, I want to actually customize the quick access toolbar. And I'll go to all commands, not macros, but all commands. If I had a brain, that'd be dangerous. And in here, I can scroll down to the C's. And there you will find here is the camera. And I can click add, except I've already got it on my version in here with a whole load of other things as well. Now, if you have too many of them, you can just hit reset, or you can click on these and just remove them. And you can even move them up and down if you want. But I've got the camera tool on here already. And what that can be is if I color this cell yellow, and then I go and say, right, from the camera tool, I'm going to click here and go camera. Say, right, I want to take that. There's my camera tool. It's going to take a picture of this image there. So if I then put in here 55, it will show it as that. It's not an actual cell, it's a picture. And you can use this if you want for the background to a chart, which is what I'm going to do later. So you can do it that way and create your little image that way, but I'm not going to do it that way. So let's kill that. So for those of you that have got the actual ability to create an image in Excel, you can actually go into a particular cell. So I'm going to go to cell B4 here and go insert. And then from here, I'm going to go pictures and place in the cell. So there's this option now in Excel. It's not in all versions yet. So this is the one bit where you might need to use the camera tool instead to put it in. But I'm going to go place in the cell. And then in here, it's going to be stock images. And I'm going to go and it's going to load my stock images. So these are all things that we don't need to worry about. Copyrights, things like these are Microsoft ones. So I'm going to type in sales. I feel like a bit of a boating expedition going on. So have we got any particular ones we like? Oh, it's all very serene and pretty. Let's use that one and click insert. I don't care if it is small. That's what my girlfriend often says to me. That's another story for another day. Just don't tell the wife. Then I've also got another one here. I'll go insert again. So pictures, place in cell, stock images. And I'll go for cogs. Let's take that one and insert. And in this one, pictures, place in cell. I'm going to go for stock images yet again. And let's go for cash. So I haven't got any cash. I was hoping we'd get Johnny Cash or something like that. What should we go for here? Let's have something a bit bland. Let's take that one and hit insert. Phenomenal, Liam. What's this got to do with charts? Just leave it with me, okay? We're starting here, so you could actually use the camera tool here and go through. So what, if in terms of with the camera tool, if you're bothered, what we're trying to put in here is you can actually take a picture of something instead and change it around should you wish. It will be different images, or go to different cell references where you put images in. You can do things to get around this, but I'm going to use the image tool here. And again, you don't need to do this bit if you don't want to. So it's sailboats in sailing competitions, metal cogwheel, and stacks of gold coins is what it's in here. Lovely. So these are these images. Great. Let's add another sheet now. So I've just clicked on the plus button and I'm going to make up some data. And I'm going to have here month end. I'm going to have sales, cogs, and profit. So, now I see where you're going with those images, Liam. I see there's something going on. Yeah, you see, bear with me. Right, so I'm filming this on the 6th of October. I've been away. I leave everything to the last minute, all these things in here. So let's say I've got to the end of 30th September. So I've got my data for some time. But let's say that we had from the 31st of Jan 2024. Then I'm going to have the 29th of Feb 24 because it was a leap year. And I'll go down until we get to the 30th of September 2025. There. Lovely. Now, apologies if you're in the US and you're weirding out here about, well, why is the day before the month? Yeah, imagine how the rest of the world feels. But we've got it in here. We've got the particular day, month, year, and I need some sales. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a table. It's always good to turn these things into a table. Well, this is a table. Yes, I'm not talking about a little table with a capital T. I'm talking about one of these, what we call an Excel table. These are quite useful because you can extend ranges simply. So I'm going to go in here and just go in and create some data. So I'm going to go and turn this into a table by clicking on this and going Insert, Table, keyboard shortcut Control T. And notice it's actually picked up the entire range. My table does have headers, A1 to D22, click OK, lovely. Now remember, always colour these things in, make sure that you've named them and so on and so forth. This is called table 1, so I'm going to call it raw_data. You can't have spaces in a table name, so I've just put up here in the top left-hand corner. You can zoom in on it if you wish. Here in table design, it's this green tab over here that's context specific, that when you're not in the table, it disappears. Come back again, and I've named it in there. And raw_data, because you can't have space as a part of a range name. Space may be part of the final frontier, but it is an illegal character in naming tables. Now, the difference between unlawful and illegal, if you're just wondering, unlawful means to contradict or contravene the rules or regulations of the territory or jurisdiction that you're in, whereas illegal is a sick bird. And that concludes my session. I've just been told to get off because if I'm going to tell that sort of standard of joke, nobody's going to listen to me anymore. Yeah, so we can't have spaces in there is what it is. So I've got raw_data, and I'm going to put in here I'm going to generate a random number just in dollars, and I want it to be, let's say, between $1,000 and $9,999. So I'm going to use the rand between function. Now there is rand array, but I want to be inclusive here, and rand array is a dynamic array function, won't work in tables. So I'm going to go for rand between 1,000, comma, and 9999, and that's going to give me a random number between 1,000 and 9,999. And then my cost of goods sold, I'm going to make as a percentage of that. And let's say we're going to make it a percentage of between 20 and 40%. So I'm going to go rand between again, 20, 40. Now that's, and multiply that by this, but we want it to be a percentage, so I've got to then divide it by 100. And yes, I shouldn't put hard code in here and things like that. But notice at sales means take the sales on this row. The at is what's called the implicit intersector. And that's giving me a value. So that's then going to be equals that minus that. Lovely. Now what I'm going to do is go arrow and down and turn all of these back on the home into a currency there. So there we go. We've got everything in currency and I've got some data. Now, if you've got exactly the same numbers as me, I suggest you stop watching this now and go out and buy lottery tickets. And if you do, I could press the F9 function key to change these things, except it will actually stop the recording, so I can't do that. But if I just put another calculation in here, like equals 5, watch what happens here, the numbers change. This is volatile, bit like me. I'm volatile! Sorry, just have to make sure everyone's awake. Apologies to everybody that was listening on headphones now, on a train, crowded, and just sprayed their coffee over everybody. I'm not going to be paying for the dry cleaning. So this doesn't change all the time. I'm just going to highlight all this and copy, Control-C, and paste as values. I use Alt-ES, which is the old Excel 2003 shortcut for edit paste special, and that's because sometimes I get rid of borders, which is a X then, all except borders, but I remember that keyboard shortcut for some reason, but I'm dyslexic. I always have ESX on my mind, but it's not that one I want. I want to make that just values and click OK. So there we go. I've now got this so that this won't keep changing. These are actual numbers in here. I've got my data. Great. Now, what I'm going to do is start playing around with this to create a nice interactive dynamic chart. Now, one of the things with tables is if you click anywhere in here and scroll up, do you see how it starts putting the labels into the headers? A bit of a gimmick, that one, but it's useful for when you're creating a little chart. So this is my data. I'm now going to decide whether I want sales, COGS, or profit. Now, this is easy to do by putting into a particular cell here. I'm going to go and say, right, on this cell here, I could go to the Data tab, go to Data Validation, and in here, I could then go from Data Validation. I'll have that. Alt-DL is my keyboard shortcut for that one, and I'm going to have it as a list. Click on this, highlight those 3 cells like that, click OK, and we've got sales, COGS, and profit. Now, if I were to put a chart in, let's just say I did that as a chart. That's simple. Insert, recommended chart. Lovely. Let's just take this recommended chart here just to show you what the problem is. Put this over here. Well, how am I going to actually see that sales or whatever? I want to change it. So if I'm going to do that, then I'm going to have to get rid of the borders or something. So I'm going to click on this and the border. I'll put no line, etc. So that border goes away. We'll get rid of the grid lines by clicking on view. We can switch grid lines off, and it looks like it's part of the data cleverly, but it's a bit messy. So we can do that, but I want to find another way of having my stuff in here. So rather than do that one, I'm going to get rid of this. In fact, let's go and get rid of that, the grid lines, get rid of the chart. Goodbye. And I don't even need the data validation. All gone. Control Z is a wonderful thing. Or Control Z if you're in America. Right. What I want to do is get something from the Developer tab. So I'm going to take something from the developer tab here, and what I'm going to do is, it's here, the developer tab. Now, a lot of you are going to say, Liam, I don't have the developer tab. What am I going to do? Well, if you don't have the developer tab on your ribbon, you should throw away your machine right now. Just get an axe, smash it a few times, then a chain. Oh no, wait a minute. You can put it actually onto your ribbon quite easily. Yeah, perhaps don't do that. If you've started it already, again, we're not going to be on the hook for it. Remember, this is all for charity. We can't afford any unnecessary expenses. Okay, so if you haven't got this here, just click on File. Go down to Options. I always think that should be Alt-F-O, but people say that's not very polite. Alt-F-T is what will get you to the options. And what we have in here is I'm going to go down to Customize Ribbon. And in the ribbon, you'll see over here on the right-hand side, you'll need to check the developer on. Now, this can cause conflicts for some of you with lots of different add-ins that your company has put on there and things like this. It's one of the reasons it's not automatically switched on. Plus, it means it's thinking about macros and goodness knows what else. We need it for a few minutes. You can always get rid of it again later on. So, click OK, and we have developer on here. And on developer, I'm going to go in there and click on Insert, and I've just got form controls. Now, some of you might have ActiveX controls in here as well. We're not creating an X file. There's no Mulder and Scully here. We are only going to do form controls. On my version, they have removed that from here and put it in, but make sure you're in the forms one if you do have two. And I'm going to create a drop-down box using this second one on the top row. You can again zoom in, the combo box or form control, and I'm going to click on that and put it here. And I'm going to hold the Alt button down so it snaps to grid and it's over two cells like that. Nice big drop down. And what I can do now is go in here, and down at the bottom I'll have Format Control when I right click. Now this should have 5 tabs. If you haven't got the Control tab at the end, you clicked on the wrong thing. So go and look again. It should be, when you insert, you're going to Forms, not ActiveX Control. So it's in there, and my input range is going to be sales, COGS, and gross profit, just as before. And my cell link, let's make it that cell here. And click OK. Doesn't matter if there's 8 lines and I've only got 3 items. It means a maximum of 8 lines. Click OK. There we go. So click on here. We'll have sales, COGS, and profit drop down. Oh, what's happened here? Format control. B1 to D1. What's happened, you stupid thing? The problem with doing it this way is, whilst it's a picture, is it has to have, for its list, things going down a column. Data validation didn't have to, as you saw. We actually deliberately did it going across a row. So I've got this issue that I've got to get sales, COGS, and profit going down. So let's hit cancel. And what I'm going to need to do, let's insert a column here. Ha! See, doesn't work. This picture has stayed here. So I'm going to move this out the way instead. And I'm going to put in sales, COGS, and profit. Now you can, if you have dynamic arrays, go equals transpose and highlight those 3 cells in the header here, which will give you a nice formula because this is a table. So it's saying transpose the headers for the table raw data from sales to profit. And that will give me sales, COGS, and profit. But let's say we can't do it that way. You can highlight these 3 cells in any version of Excel and go equals transpose. It's always good to put the P in, or you get translate, and highlight these 3 cells like this, and then go Control Shift Enter to create an old array. That will do it. But then if you want to insert a row later, only Chuck Norris can change part of an array. So that's not a good idea either. And I can't even delete them one at a time. You've got to delete the whole lot together. So different ways of doing it. I'm just going to go equals sales equals COGS. You think, why don't I just write them in again? It's very simple here. If these change, if I change this to revenue, it automatically updates. Now, if there were more of these to do, I wouldn't do it that way, but I'm trying to keep it nice and simple. Now with this format control, if I go back in here, let's right click and go to format control. The input range is now in a column. I'm going to make the cell reference this cell here. Keep the number of drop-down lines to 8. That's just the maximum, and click OK. Right, it's a picture. I've clicked off it. Now if I click on here, I've got sales, COGS, and profits. Click on sales. There you go, and I get the number 1 here. Oh, that's clever, isn't it? Might click on this. Let's just move it out of the way a little bit so you can see. If I change this instead to COGS, I get a 2. And if I type in here the number 3, it actually changes to profit. So I can do it both ways. I can actually go through and get it one way or the other. It's pretty clever. And I can go in here and use a formula, which is equals index, open brackets, highlight these 3 cells, comma that, close brackets, and that will tell me what it is I've selected. So profit, COGS, and sales. And that's why I always do these things, if I right click, to be 2 cells wide. So let's just put it in here by holding Alt down. And I've got the things in there. So I can go equals G3 is 1. And then if I copy that across, I've got the sales. That's what I have in there. So I'm just doing a bit of prep work here. Sales, COGS, profit, all nicely done here. Okay, what's going on? Well, the other thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to realize I've got the number 1 in here. I've got this thing. Let's just carry on. I'm now going to have my dates, and I just want the last 12 months. I'm going to create a rolling budget for the last 12 months. Now, I could do it for a particular date. I'm going to just create it in here. So I'm going to have a little table, and this is going to be equals month end. This is going to equal whatever's in this cell. So that's H3, sales. So, and then I'm going to go down to row 13 here in the month end one and make this equal to the max, open brackets, and highlight starting cell A2, Control Shift down arrow. So I've got the whole range. That means the maximum of the month end column in the raw data table. And that gives me 45,930. What? You see, if I go to the Home tab and change this back to a short date, 30th September. Now, I don't want it like that. I want it to be formatted. I'm going to just go and hit the format painter so it's like that, so everyone can see what it is. I want it like that. It's a serial number. So it's counting from the 1st of January 1900. So day 1 was the 1st of January 1900, day 2 was the 2nd of January 1900, and so on. So if I delete it, does that make me a serial killer? Nah. Anyway, I've got this in here, so that's got the last date. And then what I want to do is actually go, okay, equals. Now, I'm going to take this date here is what I want and subtract so many days to get to the date before. Yeah? No. I'm going to use the old McDonald function. All right, Liam, I'll buy it. What's the old McDonald function? Well, it's old McDonald had a date. Unlike most Excel modelers, that's another story for another day. EO, month. Anyway, equals EO month, which means end of month. Click on this and go comma -1, which means the end of the month previously, 1 month before. And again, I'll use the format painter to put that in here. And I can drag that all the way up to row 2. And I've got 12 periods. And so if I add more dates in here, it'll automatically extend. So I'm going to mythically put the 31st of October 25 in here. And we'll make that 7726. I'll make this 314567. And that's going to equal that minus that. I can copy and paste them as values, but you get the idea. And you'll see it's automatically gone to the 31st of October and goes back to the 30th of November. I've made this dynamic. This is the interactive bit, and this is the dynamic bit. So dynamic means it will automatically update the size. Interactive means I get to choose. It's great. So I've got that in here. Now, how do I get the sales? To get the sales here, remember sales can change to be COGS or profit. I want that to be my actual data in here. I want to be able to dynamically pick the right column. So it's going to have to find the right cell going down here and then actually move across so many columns to the right. Now, To do that, I'm going to use the offset function. Now, there's lots of different ways I can do this, but a lot of people hate the offset function because it's volatile, which means it keeps recalculating. But let me just show you what offset does by, I'll just add another sheet and I'll just put in offset. And maybe offset has two vowels in it. I'm just going to put the numbers 1, 2, 7 and 8 in a grid like this. And then I'm going to drag it across to column F and down to row 6. I've got the numbers 1 to 36. Now, if I go equals offset, open brackets, starting cell A1, comma 2, comma 3, that actually is finding me the second row, third column. Yeah, second row, third column. That will be 9. Oh, it's 16. What happened? It's not selecting a row and column. It's moving. It's not about placement. It's about displacement. Not that placement, but displacement. So I'm going to go down 2 rows and across 3, 1, 2, 3 columns. So it gets me to 16. That's all it does. You can actually have these as negative numbers where it reads right to left and down to up instead. But we are going to be keeping this nice and simple. So you see if I start here and go to the Formulas tab and click on Trace Dependence, it shows me that that's in there, which it is. So A1 is referenced. And if I go to 16, which is the result, go Trace Dependent. Oh, it's not used. This is a volatile function. It's non-auditable, which means the audit functions can't figure out exactly what it's using. So it keeps recalculating the whole time. So having too many of these in an Excel workbook can slow down your machine because it's recalculating all the time. So just watch out for that, but it can be quite useful. Now, the other thing I can do is I can pick the number 16 here and try and find which row it's in. So I can go equals match, find me the number 16 in this column, which is what it's requiring. Lookup array here has to be what's called a vector, which means it's either one row or one column. And then I want an exact match, 0. So we're not going to use X match or any of that stuff. We're going to use the good old-fashioned match, and that will tell me that's in position 3. With me? No, Liam, not at all. What's this got to do with charts? Well, let's go back. This is my chart data, so let's actually rename this sheet. So I'm going to call this my chart stuff. Let's call it chart stuff. And even put a space in my sheet tab. Right, so I'm going to go here and find, first of all, the actual row and column I need to go. So I know how many columns to the right it's going to go. So if I go equals offset, open brackets, I'm going to start here in this cell here. Raw data, headers, month end. So it's going to be there. It means be in the header for month end in the raw data table. And that will always link to that. That's going to, as I have it at the moment, when I copy this down. If I go across one, it will actually move, but it's fine like this. Now, how many rows down do I go? Well, I need to match open brackets. I'm going to find in here this date, comma, and then I'm going to highlight all of this, which will be month end. So that will automatically extend, comma 0, close brackets. And I'll go one column to the right for the time being. That's not quite right. That's going to be the sales, but it's not going to be either dynamic or interactive at the moment. And if I press enter, I get 6024. November 2024 is indeed 6024. How has that worked? Well, what's happened here is when I've gone in, it said, right, start off in this heading, and then what I want you to do is match J2, so that's 30th November 2024, in this field, raw data month end, which started from here, not the month end, but from here, row 2 onwards. And November 2024 is down here in row 12, so it's in the 12th row. So it goes down, sorry, it's not the 12th, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th. It's the 11th. It's the 11th row of the range. It's row 12. And because we're starting off in the headers, it's gone down, it's displaced, so it's picking the right thing. So as I copy this down, I get 6024, 3697, etc., etc. But instead of making it comma 1, I'm going to go in here and link to this cell, which I'll make absolute, and press enter. So that's going to be, oh, not H3, G3 even. Ha! We don't link it to words, we link it to the number 6024. So if I move this out of the way, what I've done is I'm picking this number. See, I picked the text because I'm an idiot, but that's all right. We're copying this down, and that's currently sales. If I change that to COGS, it's going to go to the next row, so next column I should say, so it's going to be 1445.76, 1035, and so on. So we've got the data. And if I click on here and make it profit, it's bringing that up. Nice and easy. So I'm going to make all of these currency by going back to home and changing this to currency. And we've got the currency. Amazing. So what are we doing now? Well, let's put this back where it was. So I'm just going to move that back up here and hold the Alt button down, which snaps it to grid. Lovely. And I'm going to have more of a table. I'm going to work out my max profit. So I'll just call this max, min, and then I'm going to make this equal that, whatever that is, right? So I'm going to now write in a formula that says equals if, open brackets, this value here, K2, and I'm going to anchor this by pressing the F4 function key 3 times, equals the max, open brackets, of these cells, made absolute, close brackets, comma. So if it's the maximum of that range, then we're going to take it, $K2. Otherwise, it's going to be 0. Which I can do like that, or if I'm lazy, just close the brackets and have to put it in. So it's going to be 0. And copy that down. Great. And again, I'll make this a cell style of currency. Lovely. And I'll copy this across one. And I'll change this to be the word min. This is finding my minimum value. Lovely. And now I'm going to make this equal that number minus that minus that. Now, I know if they're all the same value, there's going to be a problem here and things like this, but this is just a short video session, so we won't go through them all. So I'll just go in here and take the format painter so they're all the same. Widen it so it's all there. So every number is going to appear in one of these 3 columns. And now I'm ready to go with creating my chart. So I'm going to put in here, I'm going to highlight this column, hold the control button down, highlight that one, this one, and this one. And I like doing things this way because if you then click on insert and go to recommended chart, it gets clever about what it thinks you want. And I'm going to have a look. There's like line charts and area charts, and there's this thing here. This is a clustered column one, but the one I actually want is a couple down from that. I want the stacked one. Now, let me explain the difference between these 2 charts. If you look at the clustered one, and you might want to zoom in on this, you'll see in the clustered column chart here that I've got an orange min and I've got a blue max, and everything else is in green. But the orange and the blue are off-center. They're not equally spaced because it's clustering them as 3, a max, a min, and a profit in this case of what I've chosen. Whereas if I go down to this one, they're all equally distributed because it puts the data on top of each other, and 2 of the 3 values are going to be 0. So it's the stacked, not the clustered I want, see, to go through. And if I do that and click OK, I have my little wonderful chart. Look at that, conditional formatting for charts. Now, colorblind might not like this, so I'm going to start making this a little bit bigger and better and so on and so forth. I've got my actual chart data here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it for reasons that will become clearer soon. I'm going to just take this and put it over here in a column and a row that's not yet been used. Just stay with me. I'm going somewhere with this. People think, I hope you're going soon, Liam, because this is not a very interesting topic. And I'm going to actually put it here, let's say. And I'm going to make this cell, I'm going to make this wider, and I'm also going to make it deeper. So this is just going to be all in one cell. So I've messed it up. So we'll just shrink it down. Right, and I'm going to put it, hold the Alt button down, snap it to grid, like that. Put it there. The chart is nicely in that cell. Lovely. Now, some things I want to do. I want to get rid of this grid line here, so I'll get rid of that. And the next thing I want to do is notice all these things are formatted nicely already. But I want to make this a bit easier for those that might suffer with colour impairment issues, colour blindness, vision problems and so on. Greens and oranges and blues can be a little bit awkward. So I'm going to keep it, so the grey here, I'm going to click on these cells and then click on Format in the context specific tabs, Format Selection, and I'm going to go and change the colour here. So you'll see if I click on Fill, hi Phil, shout out to Phil at this point, I'm going to go for a solid fill. And I'm going to make it a nice grey. Lovely. I should make it a dark grey than that for reasons that will become clearer later. So, didn't seem to do much. Let's make it a really dark grey. There we go, dark grey. And then what I'm going to do is I need the other two. Now I can go and click and select on them, but I can click on here and go to the max. So the max at the moment is blue. So let's make that a nice green. So let's go for the green here. And then for back in the series options, I'm going to go down to min, and we'll make this something that people are going to see as a, we'll make it that colour. Hopefully that's going to be, green and red aren't going to go too well, so let's go for an orangey colour like that. Hopefully that'll stand out a little bit more. And also while I'm in here, I'll click on this series options one here, and I'll make the gap width, instead of 150%, I'll just make it 50%, so they're all a bit fatter together. Lovely! We don't have to say fatter anymore, I don't know. But I've got this wonderful chart going here. Now notice the dates is 1st November 24, 1st of December 24, 1st of January 2025. But everything here is the end of the month. Now this is what happens when you have continuous charts like this, that it always starts the 1st. So the easiest way around that is to click on this axis here and go back to Format and Format Selection. And I'm going to go down to the number bit here on this axis options and this axis options. Click on number. And I'm going to uncheck link to source, so it's no longer formatted the same as the source. And I'm going to have the actual code being MMM, meaning I want 3 letters for the month, space YY, 2 digits for the year, and click add. And now you see it goes Nov 24, Dec 24, Jan 25, and so on. Great. And I'm going to make this as well. If I click in here, let's make this home. Let's make this easier to read. Let's make that black. We'll make those black. And this here is a legend. Oh, what a legend. And we'll go there black as well. Great. All right. Let's go back to my stuff over here. And I'm going to put in here now some data. I'm going to write some data about this. So let's work out some things. So my final month is going to be equal to, let's go final month is equal to that. That's what we picked. I want then the total profit. So I'm going to go equals, and I'll just put total like that, and then close speech marks, ampersand, and then click on that cell there. That's total profit, and that's going to equal the sum of these cells. And then I'm going to go for max and min, and I'll go here equals, or the max, I can just go max of this, and the min is going to equal the min, open brackets, of this as well. And then we're going to find out which month it's in. So in order to find out which month it's in, I'm going to use, well, the great function here will be XLOOKUP. XLOOKUP will be beautiful because I can just go XLOOKUP, find me this value, comma, in this column, and return the value in that one. That's beautiful because then if I format as a date, it works fine. But that's not in all versions of Excel, so we're not going to do it that way. I'm going to have to find a different way to actually hunt this down. So I'm going to use instead the match function. I want to find this in this column. So I'll make that absolute. I say I want an exact match. And that tells me that's in position 9. It says 9 Jan 00 because I've formatted it as a date. And then I want to say, right, index, open brackets, take this column, which will also put here, and then take the 9th value in there. And that will give me the same thing, 31st of July 2025. And if I copy this down, I get the 31st of May 2025. So I'm using the good old index match functions. Probably the best combination of lookup function out there. Forget VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, some if, some product. XLOOKUP's fine in the versions of Excel that support it, but we've actually got this data in here. Right, so why have I got all this stuff here? I'm now going to actually put a little formula together, and I'm going to put in here equals formula text, which may be a function you don't know, on that cell, which at the moment will give me NA because there's nothing in there. But if I put equals 5 in there, it shows me what the formula is, equals 5, see? But that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to click on that, J16, total profit, and then I'm going to go ampersand, it connects it together, open speech marks for the 12 months ending, and I think I've got one space too many here. No, it didn't. And another space, and then ampersand, and click on that date, gives me total profit for the 12 months ending 45961. See, it's got the total profit for the 12 months ending. Right, how do I turn that into a date? You see, I can't go and do this and change it to a date. It won't work because this is text. It's a mixed cell. So we have to use a function that will turn it in there. And the function to use is the text function that will put that through. So if I go text of K15 here, and then what you do is you put the format you want it to be. So I'm going to put in here open speech marks and use the MMM space YY that we used to format the horizontal axis of the chart a minute ago. If I go close brackets, it says total profits for the 12 months ending October 2025, and then ampersand, open speech marks, space is, space, close speech marks, ampersand, and now I'm going to click on the total profit. So now I've got total profit for the 12 months ending October 2025 is 52,686.7. No, I want that to be. So again, I'm going to go in here and use the text function. Usually has an E in it, unless you're texting. Get it? Never mind. Okay, and then to get that looking like a currency in dollars, it's going to be dollar, and then I'm going to go hash, comma, hash, hash, 0. So the hash has been put a number if you need to. The comma is 1,000 separator, and also for millions, billions, and so on. 0 means definitely put a number, and 0.00 means show it to 2 decimal places. Then close speech marks, close brackets. And that now gives me the total profit for 12 months ending up 2025 is 52,686.7. Great, that's lovely. So what? And then I'm going to put ampersand, open speech marks, full stop. And I'm going to say max profit, sorry, max. I'll put, actually, let's put it this way, the maximum amount, so we're not having to put all that in again. The maximum amount occurred in space ampersand, and it's this month, L17. And we've got that problem again. Well, I'm going to make this bigger by dragging this down a little bit, and I've got this already, so I'm going to just steal that, Control C, and paste it there, and put L17 in there. And I forgot the close bracket, so that's all right. So that gives me, okay, maximum amount I can, and then go ampersand, open speech marks, space, which was, space, close speech marks, ampersand. Now I'm going to take this one with the currency thing in, Control C, and paste here, Control V. Now that's not K16, that should be K17. See? And then let's just go again. I'm going to steal this whole bit from here to here, Control C, and go Control V, so I've just pasted it a second time. So it's just going on, so I've got the maximum amount and then the maximum amount again. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal that second one to be the minimum amount. So that's going to be minimum, and that will therefore be L18. That will be K18, and at the end, I'm a bit of a grammar Nazi, so open speech marks and close speech marks with a full stop. And I get this. Isn't that good? All this thing. And it goes on forever. But I have this thing in here, and I've written the formula, as you can see down there. Now I'm going to highlight this cell and just type a space, and this one as well, type a space, so it cuts it off, so you can't see all that in there. So why have I done all that? Well, that's because I can go back to my chart now, and where I've got chart title in here, once I've clicked on that, go to the formula bar and go equals. You have to do this. It's got to be on the same sheet. Click on that cell, chart stuff J19, bang! It's got that in, and I've got that nice and big in there. How cool's that? I think that's pretty cool. But we're going to go better. I'm going to have this chart now. I'm just going to move this out the way over here. And here, I'm going to put in a formula in this cell. I'm going to go equals. And I'm going to go offset, open brackets, back to the images sheet, and click on this cell, B3, comma. Now I'll go back to my chart stuff, and I'm going to go to not this cell, but this cell here, G3. So I'm in that cell here, which is going to go through. That's going to give me the number 1, 2, or 3, depending on whether I've selected sales, COGS, or profit. And I've gone too few, because remember, we've also got to say how many columns to the right we're going. Oops, so we have to go comma 0. And there you go, I have my image of cash. Now if I change this, I'm going to move this here. Let's change that to sales and go back over here. Do you see that's now given me COGS? Did I choose? I chose COGS. I thought I'd chosen sales. Idiot. Therefore close sales. There's my sales. See? Guess it's my sales. Look at that. And we can center this in case the images are slightly different. And then I'm going to put this back over it, like this. Now you can choose things that are more transparent. You think, well, that's great, Liam, we've just hidden that. I know, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this and go Format, Format Selection, and I'm going to actually have for the fill, no fill. And now you can see the chart beneath it. Now, unfortunately, my labeling's not great here, so we might decide that we want to make those a different colour. So let's make them a bright yellow. That looks better, doesn't it? Probably not, but as we go through in different times. And we can go in here and make that a nice bright yellow as well in this particular case. So if I go back to this over here and change this to COGS, it's now utterly unreadable. So maybe we don't do yellow, but we can actually perhaps make it a colour that can be easier to read. So perhaps red is a better standout one here, red. And now let's go back and try the profit. That's profit. And we go back to sales and so on. But it's a bit annoying having to... I thought I clicked on sales. Sales, Liam. There you go. Keeps doing it. Now, why am I doing all this? Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to take this thing that's over here and I'm going to drag it down. So I'm going to take that. I'm just going to drag it over here. And then let's go down and over to the right a bit and go again. So I'm going to make it smaller. It doesn't need to be. Let's make it smaller like that. I'll just put it here. Now, if that is actually underneath, you just right click on it at this point in here and you can go top. But what I'm going to do in here, it's transparent, it's gone missing. It needed to be brought to the top. So I'm going to go back and take it here. and I'm going to put it so it's there, and then I'm going to click on this, try and click on it, and I'm going to order, I'm going to bring it to the front, and then when I put it in here, it's at the top of the thing. So now if I click off it, I can change this to cogs, and I've got my cogs, and I've got my profit, and I've got an interactive dynamic chart with conditional formatting in here. How cool is that? And you can play around with this and start having lots of other ideas, but it just gives you an idea. Now, I've got a messy sheet at the moment. I've got all this data over here. So let's just make this smaller so you can see everything on here at the moment at the same time. Doesn't matter that it's unreadable. This session was brought to you by Specsavers. I want to hide all this stuff then. Now, there are schools of thought about should the chart data be on the same sheet as the chart? And my recommendation is yes, because if you have the chart data on a different sheet to the chart and then you copy it several times, depending on how you copy it, everything links to the original chart data, which you may not want. So I'm going to have it here, but I'm going to hide it. Now, instead of hiding it just by right-clicking and go hide, I'm going to go to the data tab and go to group and hit group. So it puts it in like that. And then I can just click on that. Oh, well, that killed the chart. What's happened there? Unfortunately, when you hide the data, everything disappears. And I need another one here that's going to do the same thing on this side. So let's put that like that and go to group and group again. And that's going to just kill this chart. So what's going wrong? Well, let's make this bigger again. And I'm going to go back to the chart and right click and click on select data. Now in here, there is a button that says hidden and empty cells. And if I click on that, one of the things that drives me mad in here that I think should be the default option is show data in hidden rows and columns, which you can zoom in on. And if I actually check that and click OK, and then click OK, I can now close this and this. So if I let's close them both. So either it's because I was editing a cell. Let's close that and close that one, and the data's still there. I can switch the grid lines off, and I have a nice chart to go with where I've got cogs. I can change it to sales, which it never wants to do. There's my sales, and there's my profit. Lovely. And it's updated that. You'll see total profit for the 12 months, sales, and so on. And this is interactive because I'm changing it. And it's dynamic as well because if I actually expand this and go over here to this data, I can go in and put in another one. I could go and put the 30th of November in. And I'll make that 694233. I'll make that 4177, and that's going to equal that minus that. And if I go back to my chart now, if I just collapse that and that, this is now doing it for November. See? Interactive and dynamic. Hopefully this gives you some ideas of things you can do with just the normal cool stuff in Excel. So we've stayed away from the other things here. As I say, you can use the camera tool. So the image is not going to work for you in here because you can't place it directly in a cell as you don't have that version. Most versions of Excel have got that in now, but if you're not, you can use the camera tool and put the camera tool picture in and then put the chart over it instead and make it transparent. Will give you the same idea, but everything else should work in all versions. Hopefully that's just giving you some ideas of how to create cool tools. Now yes, you can make the images a bit more transparent, find better images so it's not going to be so difficult to read, but you get the idea. Right, that was my example. Well, I hope you found that useful. That was creating an interactive dynamic chart. If you enjoyed it, my name's Liam Bastick. If you didn't, my name's Ilgar Zabaliev. Until next time, that was Excel Virtually Global 2025 for me. Do remember the evaluations.